Chosen one, pause for a moment and listen carefully. What I'm about to share is not for everyone. This is an urgent and important message, and it is meant only for those who truly walk the divine path of God. If you are not serious about your faith, if you mock spiritual things, or if you are not aligned with God's calling, this message is not for you. But if you are a true follower, if your spirit has been marked by God, then you are here because heaven allowed it. This message reached you at the exact right time. Not early, not late, perfectly timed. God trained you in secret for a reason. What looked like isolation was preparation. What felt like delay was discipline. And now the season is shifting. You are not rising as a victim anymore. You are rising as a kingdom warrior, strengthened, refined, and spiritually armed. If you stay with me till the end, you will finally understand why your journey was so intense, why others could not walk with you, and why God never explained himself while shaping you. This understanding will bring peace to your mind and fire to your spirit. Before we continue, chosen ones, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, turn on the bell icon and share this message with other chosen ones so they don't miss their confirmation. And comment 777 below to declare that you are aligned, prepared, and ready for the mission God has placed on your life. Why God hid you. The purpose of divine seclusion. Chosen one, I need you to understand something clearly, and I want you to receive this calmly, not emotionally. God did not hide you because you were weak. He hid you because you were valuable. Heaven never places rare things in crowded places. What is common can survive noise. What is chosen must be protected in silence. There was a reason your life did not unfold like others. There was a reason doors closed without explanation, a reason friendships faded, a reason your path felt lonely even when you were surrounded by people. God was not punishing you. He was positioning you. And most people never understand this while they are inside the process. They only see it clearly once they come out refined. When God calls someone for a kingdom assignment, he first removes distractions. Not gently, firmly. He separates you from environments that would have corrupted your character before your calling could mature. If you had been celebrated too early, you would have relied on applause instead of obedience. If you had been supported too soon, you would have depended on people instead of God. So God hid you. You wondered why your life felt delayed while others moved ahead. You questioned why your efforts seemed unseen. But listen carefully. God does not rush what he plans to sustain. Speed produces excitement. Preparation produces endurance. God was more interested in building your foundation than displaying your gifts. Isolation was not rejection. It was divine insulation. God was shielding you from jealousy you could not yet discern, from manipulation you were not yet strong enough to resist, from spiritual attacks you were not yet equipped to fight. While you thought you were losing people, God was removing liabilities. There are things God teaches only in silence. Obedience without reward, faith without reassurance, trust without evidence. In the hidden place, you learned how to stand without validation. You learned how to pray when no one was watching. You learned how to keep going when motivation disappeared. That training could not happen in public. You see, public platforms expose character flaws. Private seasons correct them. God knew that if he elevated you too soon, your unhealed wounds would bleed into your assignment. So he took his time with you, not because you were slow, but because your calling was heavy. Think about how many times you felt overlooked. How many times people misunderstood your heart. How many times you felt invisible even when you were doing your best. That pain was not wasted. It stripped you of ego. It humbled your spirit. It taught you compassion. A kingdom warrior cannot be arrogant. They must be grounded. God also hid you to detox your desires. At one point, you wanted recognition. You wanted approval. You wanted to be seen. But after the hidden season, you just want peace. You want alignment. You want truth. That shift did not happen accidentally. It happened because God reprogrammed your heart. Let me say this boldly. Some people could not go with you because they were assigned to your comfort, not your destiny. God removed them not because they were evil, but because they were misaligned. If they stayed, you would have stayed small, and God refused to let that happen. During this hidden season, God taught you discernment. You learned to feel energy before words, to notice intentions before actions, to sense when something was off without needing proof. That skill was born from betrayal, disappointment, and silence, and it is one of the strongest weapons a kingdom warrior carries. You also learned how to sit with yourself. No distractions, no noise, no crowd to hide behind. That is where most people break. But you didn't. You faced your fears, your insecurities, your doubts. You wrestled with God in prayer. You questioned Him. You cried, and you stayed. That is why heaven trusts you. God hides His warriors so the enemy cannot study them. If your rise had been visible, opposition would have formed early. Attacks would have intensified before you were ready. So God trained you undercover, quietly, strategically, while others underestimated you. This is why your growth feels sudden to outsiders. They say you changed overnight. But you know the truth. It took years. Years of obedience without reward. Years of patience without promise. Years of faith without proof. And that kind of growth cannot be counterfeited. You were hidden because God was teaching you how to hear His voice above your emotions. When everything else was stripped away, His voice remained. And now you recognize it instantly. That clarity is priceless. Let me help you release something now. Stop grieving the season where you were unseen. Stop resenting the people who walked away. Stop questioning why God did not explain Himself. You were not forgotten. You were protected. The hidden season was not about what you were doing. It was about who you were becoming. And what you became in secret will now speak for you in public. You are no longer desperate for attention. You are no longer chasing validation. You are no longer confused about who you are. That is how you know the training worked. God hides His chosen ones until they are unshakable. And chosen one, if you are listening to this with recognition in your spirit, it means the hiding place has done its work. The silence has served its purpose, and what God built in you privately is about to stand firmly in the open. Rest your mind. You are never behind. You are being prepared. The secret training process. What God was building inside you. Chosen one, let me speak to you plainly now. While you thought nothing was happening, everything was happening. God was not idle. Heaven was not silent. The training was simply internal, and internal work is always quiet. Loud transformations are for the crowd. Deep transformations are for destiny. God began by working on your inner structure. Before He ever entrusted you with influence, He examined your heart. He watched how you responded when prayers went unanswered. He observed how you handled disappointment. He paid attention to whether you obeyed Him even when obedience cost you comfort. This was not accidental testing. This was intentional training. One of the first things God trained in you was emotional endurance. You had to learn how to feel deeply without being controlled by your emotions. You cried, yes. You questioned, yes. But you did not quit. You learned how to stand upright even when your heart felt heavy. A kingdom warrior cannot be ruled by feelings. They must be guided by truth. God also trained you to walk without constant reassurance. There were seasons when you begged God for signs, clarity, direction, and heaven stayed quiet. Not because God was absent, but because He was strengthening your faith muscles. Faith that needs constant confirmation collapses under pressure. Faith that has learned to trust in silence becomes unbreakable. You were trained in obedience when it made no sense. God asked you to walk away from things that looked good, opportunities that seemed right, people who felt familiar, and you obeyed, even when your logic resisted. That obedience refined your discernment. You learned that God's wisdom often contradicts human reasoning. There were moments when you felt spiritually dry. Prayer felt heavy. Worship felt forced. Scripture felt distant. And still, you showed up. That consistency trained discipline in you. Anyone can seek God when they feel inspired. Only the trained seek Him when they feel nothing. That is warrior training. God also addressed your ego, quietly, thoroughly. He allowed situations that humbled you, moments where you were overlooked, times when others received credit for work you contributed to, times when your intentions were misunderstood. Each moment peeled away pride. God was not trying to embarrass you. He was trying to save you from becoming dangerous to yourself later. You see, unchecked ego destroys calling faster than failure ever could. So God made sure your identity was rooted in Him, not in achievement. Now, your confidence comes from alignment, not applause. That is rare. Another thing God trained in you was patience. And not passive patience, active patience. The kind that keeps working, praying, growing, even when progress seems invisible. You learned how to plant seeds without digging them up every week to see if they were growing. That restraint is wisdom. God also sharpened your spiritual hearing. When noise was removed, your sensitivity increased. You began to sense things others missed. You felt warnings before danger appeared. You noticed when something was spiritually off, even if it looked fine on the surface. That discernment was earned through experience, not taught through words. You were trained to sit in God's presence without agenda, not always asking, not always pleading, sometimes just listening, sometimes just being. That intimacy rewired your spirit. You stopped seeing God as a tool and started knowing Him as a father and commander. Let me say something important here. God did not train you by giving you easy victories. He trained you by allowing resistance. Resistance builds strength. Smooth paths build entitlement. And God was never going to send you into battle entitled. You also learned how to forgive without closure. That was one of the hardest lessons. People hurt you and never apologized. Some never acknowledged the damage they caused, and God still asked you to release them, not for their freedom, but for yours. A warrior carrying bitterness is already wounded. Through this process, God trained your self-control. You learned when to speak and when to stay silent, when to act and when to wait, when to confront and when to walk away. You stopped reacting impulsively. You started responding intentionally. That maturity did not come naturally. It came through trial. There were times you felt like you were losing your old self. And you were. God was stripping versions of you that could not go where He was taking you. Old habits, old mindsets, old desires. You mourned some of them. That grief was part of the process. God also taught you responsibility. You realized that your choices carried weight, that your words mattered, that your actions had ripple effects. You stopped blaming circumstances. You took ownership. That shift is powerful. Heaven only entrusts authority to those who understand responsibility. One of the most important things God built in you was resilience. You learned how to recover, how to get back up, how to regroup after loss, how to keep your faith intact even when outcomes disappointed you. You no longer collapse under pressure. You adapt. You were also trained in humility without insecurity. You no longer need to prove yourself. You know who you are, but you don't need to announce it. That quiet confidence is a mark of true authority. Loud insecurity fades quickly. Silent strength endures. God even trained your vision. You stopped focusing on immediate gratification. You began thinking long-term. Legacy, impact, purpose beyond self. That shift signals readiness. Immature minds chase rewards. Mature minds steward responsibility. Every unanswered prayer refined you. Every closed door protected you. Every delay strengthened you. None of it was random. None of it was wasted. So when you look back and wonder why your path felt harder, slower, heavier, remember this. You were not being punished. You were being prepared. God was building something inside you that could not be rushed. A spirit that would not collapse under pressure. A heart that would not corrupt under influence. A mind that would not panic in warfare. That is the secret training. And if you are still standing, still believing, still listening right now, then it worked. The warfare you didn't see, why your battles were so intense. Chosen one, there is a side of your journey that few people ever recognized. The private battles, the internal wars, The nights when your body was tired but your mind would not rest. The moments when everything in you wanted peace, yet chaos kept knocking. That was not random. That was warfare. Let me speak with clarity and calm authority here. The intensity of your battles was not a sign that something was wrong with you. It was proof that something powerful was inside you. Opposition does not waste energy on empty assignments. Resistance only rises when destiny is near. From early on, your life felt heavier than others. You carried questions people around you never asked. You felt emotions others never felt. You sensed things others ignored. And because of that sensitivity, the pressure came early. The enemy tried to wear you down before you even knew who you were. Many of your battles were not physical. They were mental. Thoughts that appeared without invitation. Waves of doubt that hit without warning. Sudden exhaustion. A sense of heaviness you could not explain. You wondered why staying hopeful felt like work. That was not weakness. That was spiritual contention. You are fighting battles you did not have language for yet. Warfare does not always announce itself with drama. Sometimes it shows up as confusion, sometimes as discouragement, sometimes as isolation. The enemy's strategy was simple. If he could make you question your identity, he could delay your assignment. Notice how often your joy was attacked, how peace felt temporary, how moments of clarity were followed by sudden emotional weight. That pattern was intentional. The enemy studies potential. And your potential was evident long before your purpose was revealed to you. You were also targeted through people. Betrayal was not coincidence. Being misunderstood was not accidental. Some relationships turned cold without explanation. Some people projected onto you. Others competed with you quietly. And some tried to dim your light before you even knew you were shining. That was warfare through proximity. But here is what many never realize. God allowed certain battles because they trained your discernment. You learned who to trust. You learned who only supported you when it benefited them. You learned how to read silence. You learned how to detect shifts. Those lessons were painful, but they sharpened you. There were seasons when it felt like everything went wrong at once. Finances strained. Relationships collapsed. Motivation dropped. Faith felt fragile. And you asked God why the pressure was so relentless. What you did not see was that multiple layers were being attacked because multiple layers were being prepared. Warfare intensifies before elevation. That is not poetic language. That is spiritual law. The closer you get to alignment, the louder resistance becomes. Not because you are losing, but because time is running out for opposition. Some of your battles were invisible to everyone else. You smiled in public and fought in private. You showed up when you felt empty. You encouraged others while your own spirit was tired. That quiet endurance built authority. Heaven takes note of unseen faithfulness. You also fought discouragement that came disguised as logic. Thoughts that sounded reasonable but drained your hope. Thoughts that questioned timing, purpose, worth. Those were not neutral thoughts. Those were strategic interruptions. And yet, despite everything, you remained. You may have slowed down, you may have doubted, but you did not abandon your faith. That persistence alone disqualified the enemy's plan. God did not remove every battle because some battles revealed what needed strengthening. Where fear appeared, courage was built. Where confusion surfaced, clarity followed. Where weakness showed, reliance on God deepened. Let me tell you something gently now. The enemy attacked your mind because your mind carries strategy. He attacked your emotions because your heart carries compassion. He attacked your confidence because your presence carries authority. Nothing about your battles was accidental. Even the moments when you felt like giving up, when you whispered prayers instead of shouting them, when all you could say was, "God help me," those moments carried weight. That kind of prayer moves heaven. There were times you felt like you were fighting alone, but you were never abandoned. God does not leave his warriors in the middle of training. He watches closely. He intervenes quietly. He strengthens internally. Notice this. You survived things that should have broken you. Situations that would have hardened others only softened your spirit. Instead of becoming bitter, you became discerning. Instead of becoming cold, you became wise. That is not natural. That is grace. Warfare also taught you boundaries. You learned when to withdraw, when to stop explaining yourself, when to protect your peace. You stopped engaging every battle. That is maturity. A warrior does not fight every distraction. Some attacks came right after spiritual breakthroughs, moments of clarity followed by sudden heaviness. That pattern was meant to confuse you, but instead it trained you to stay grounded. You learned not to be shaken by emotional fluctuations. Let me affirm something now. You were never too sensitive. You were spiritually perceptive, and sensitivity, when trained, becomes strength. God refined your sensitivity so it would serve you, not overwhelm you. The enemy wanted you exhausted, distracted, and doubting. God wanted you alert, focused, and grounded, and through the tension, God's plan prevailed. If your life felt like constant resistance, it is because you were being shaped for impact. Light attracts opposition. Truth provokes challenge, and you carry both. So, breathe now. Release the idea that your struggle meant failure. It meant preparation. It meant proximity to purpose. You are still here because God shielded you in ways you never saw. He limited damage. He shortened battles. He strengthened you quietly. And now, as this season shifts, understand this. The warfare you endured was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to introduce you to your strength. You did not survive by accident. You survived because heaven intervened. And chosen one, the fact that you are still standing means the war did not defeat you. It trained you. The shift. Signs that the hidden season is ending. Chosen one, there comes a moment when the atmosphere around you changes. Nothing dramatic happens on the outside at first, yet something inside you settles. The noise quiets. The urgency fades. The striving stops. That is usually the first sign. Not excitement. Peace. Deep, grounded peace. That is how you know the hidden season is ending. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself. You notice that silence feels safer than oversharing. You choose rest over reaction. Where you once felt restless, now you feel anchored. That shift did not happen overnight. It happened because the training reached completion. One clear sign is emotional detachment from things that once controlled you. People you once chased no longer hold power over your mood. Situations that once triggered anxiety now meet calm restraint. You are not numb. You are regulated. God taught your nervous system how to trust Him. You also begin to feel clarity without force. Decisions that once took weeks of overthinking now arrive with quiet certainty. You stop second-guessing yourself constantly, not because you know everything, but because you trust the guidance you receive. Discernment feels natural now, not strained. Another sign is that old desires fade, not because you force them away, but because they no longer fit. You realize you have outgrown certain ambitions, certain conversations, certain environments. What once excited you now feels heavy. That is not boredom. That is elevation. You may notice that God starts removing distractions with less resistance. What once required painful separation now happens smoothly. Doors close without emotional chaos. Relationships end without drama. You bless and release instead of fighting to hold on. That grace is evidence of growth. Your prayers also change. You stop begging, you stop pleading, you start aligning. Your conversations with God become calmer, more confident. You ask with trust, not desperation. You listen more than you speak. That posture reflects maturity. Another subtle sign is that opportunities begin to approach you instead of you chasing them. Not necessarily big ones at first. Small openings, quiet invitations, simple alignments. God tests how you steward small shifts before releasing larger ones. You also become less reactive to spiritual attacks. Thoughts come, but they don't stay. Emotions rise, but they don't control you. You recover faster. You ground quicker. You no longer spiral for days. That resilience is proof that the warfare trained you well. You may feel called to clean your life. Simplify routines. Protect your energy. Adjust habits. Eat better. Rest more. Pray with intention. That inner prompting is preparation for visibility. God aligns the vessel before expanding the reach. Another sign is that you start seeing people clearly without judgment. You don't idolize them. You don't demonize them. You simply see them. That emotional neutrality is powerful. It means you are no longer entangled. You might also notice a growing intolerance for compromise. You no longer bend truth to fit in. You no longer silence yourself to keep peace. You speak gently but firmly. You walk away when alignment is missing. That is kingdom authority forming. Your confidence shifts too. It is no longer loud or defensive. It is quiet and rooted. You don't feel the need to prove your worth. You don't compete. You don't compare. You know your assignment is specific. Comparison fades when purpose becomes clear. There is also a sense of timing awakening inside you. You begin to feel when to move and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain silent. That rhythm is not learned intellectually, it is spiritually sensed. That is alignment. God may also begin confirming things through repetition. Messages echo, scriptures repeat, themes appear across conversations. You don't chase confirmation anymore. It finds you. That consistency reassures without overwhelming. Another sign is gratitude replacing grief. You stop mourning the lost years. You stop replaying old pain. Instead, you feel thankful for what the season built in you. Even the wounds begin to make sense. Gratitude is a signal of healing. You may also experience a renewed sense of purpose, but without pressure. You feel ready, not rushed. Available, not anxious. That balance is rare. And it only comes after deep preparation. Let me say this clearly. The end of the hidden season does not mean life becomes easy. It means life becomes aligned. Battles change, challenges mature, but confusion decreases. Clarity increases. You are not being pushed into something you are not ready for. You are being released into what you have already been prepared for. That difference matters. God does not announce elevation loudly. He reveals it quietly, through peace, through confidence, through discernment, through stability. So if you feel calmer than before, if you trust God without demanding explanations, if you can sit in uncertainty without panic, these are not signs of stagnation. They are signs of readiness. The hidden season ends not when circumstances change, but when you do. And chosen one, if you recognize yourself in this moment, then hear this gently. The shift has already begun. Rising as a kingdom warrior. Your new identity. Chosen one. This is where many misunderstand the calling. Rising does not mean becoming louder. It means becoming steadier. God is not elevating you to impress people. He is positioning you to influence atmospheres. A kingdom warrior does not announce their authority. Authority is felt. Your identity has shifted even if your environment has not caught up yet. You no longer move from insecurity. You move from alignment. You no longer chase affirmation. You operate from assignment. That is the mark of a warrior trained by God, not by platforms. A kingdom warrior is not driven by ego. Ego makes noise. Authority creates stillness. When you enter a room now, you don't need to control it. Your presence already carries weight. That weight comes from integrity forged in secret, from obedience practiced when no one was watching. You also understand now that power and humility are not opposites. They are partners. You can stand firm without being harsh. You can speak truth without needing to dominate. You can correct without condemning. That balance was learned through loss, not theory. Your confidence is no longer reactive. You don't need to defend yourself every time someone misunderstands you. You don't rush to explain your intentions. You trust that truth reveals itself over time. That restraint is strength. As a kingdom warrior, you have learned the discipline of silence. Silence does not mean fear. It means discernment. You know when speaking would dilute wisdom. You know when withholding words preserves peace. Many speak to be seen. Warriors speak to build. You also see conflict differently now. You don't crave it, but you're not afraid of it. You understand that confrontation, when guided by wisdom, is sometimes necessary. But you also know that not every battle deserves your energy. Discernment decides, not emotion. Your faith has matured. It is no longer fragile. You don't collapse when prayers take time. You don't panic when God delays. You trust his timing because you have seen his faithfulness in hidden places. That kind of faith cannot be shaken by circumstances. A kingdom warrior carries responsibility. You are aware that people observe you even when you are unaware. Your reactions, your tone, your integrity matter. Not because you seek influence, but because influence has been entrusted to you. You are also aware now that spiritual authority attracts attention. Some will admire you. Some will misunderstand you. Some will resist you. And you have made peace with that. Approval is no longer your compass. Obedience is. Your emotional life has changed too. You feel deeply, but you are no longer ruled by emotion. You process pain without projecting it. You address wounds instead of spreading them. That emotional maturity protects your assignment. You have also learned how to stand alone without feeling lonely. Solitude no longer scares you. It strengthens you. You know that God often speaks clearest when the room is quiet. That comfort with solitude is a warrior trait. Another mark of your new identity is patience under provocation. You don't rush to respond. You observe. You pray. You choose wisdom over impulse. That pause has saved you from many unnecessary battles. You are also no longer impressed by appearances. You discern substance. Titles don't move you. Noise doesn't distract you. You look for fruit, not performance. That clarity protects you from deception. A kingdom warrior understands authority comes with restraint. Just because you can speak doesn't mean you should. Just because you see doesn't mean you must expose. Wisdom knows when to cover and when to confront. You also carry a deep sense of stewardship. You guard what God has given you, your peace, your calling, your time, your energy. You no longer give access to everyone. That boundary is not selfish. It is sacred. Your relationship with God has shifted as well. It is less transactional and more relational. You don't approach him only in crisis. You walk with him daily. That consistency strengthens your spirit. You also understand now that being chosen does not mean being superior. It means being accountable. You are held to a higher standard, not a higher pedestal. That awareness keeps you grounded. Your words carry more weight now because they are measured. When you speak encouragement, it lands. When you speak correction, it convicts. Not because you are forceful, but because you are aligned. You also recognize that your assignment is not to save everyone. It is to remain faithful. God handles outcomes. You handle obedience. That clarity frees you from unnecessary pressure. As a kingdom warrior, you don't rush into visibility. You allow God to place you where you are needed. You move when he says move. You rest when he says rest. That rhythm sustains you. You have learned how to remain calm in chaos. When others panic, you anchor. When others react, you respond. That steadiness is not natural. It is trained. Your identity is no longer fragile. Criticism does not crush you. Praise does not inflate you. You remain centered. That stability makes you trustworthy. Let me speak this over you now. You are not stepping into a role you are unprepared for. You are stepping into alignment with who you have already become. You were trained for this, shaped for this, strengthened for this. And as you rise, remember this. A kingdom warrior does not seek the spotlight. The light follows them. Walk forward with humility. Stand firm with authority. And trust the God who prepared you in secret to sustain you in the open. How to walk forward without fear or hesitation. Chosen one, now that you understand who you are becoming, the next question is simple but serious. How do you move forward without fear? How do you walk into what God has prepared without second-guessing yourself, without shrinking back, without sabotaging the very thing you prayed for? The first thing you must release is the need to understand everything before you obey. Fear often disguises itself as caution. Hesitation often hides behind logic. But God rarely reveals the full path in advance. He reveals the next step. Trust is built by movement, not by certainty. You walk forward by trusting God's character, not your circumstances. Circumstances change. God does not. If he carried you through confusion, he will carry you through clarity. If he sustained you in the hidden place, he will sustain you in visibility. Another key is learning to move quietly. Not everything God is doing in your life needs to be announced. Silence protects momentum. When you speak too soon, you invite opinions that dilute conviction. Let your fruit speak before your plans do. You must also resist the urge to revisit old seasons mentally. Fear grows when you rehearse past pain. You are not walking backward. You are not starting over. You are building forward with wisdom earned. The past trained you. It does not define you. Walking forward also requires allowing God to defend you. This is difficult for many chosen ones because you learned to survive by explaining yourself. But now, restraint is required. Not every accusation deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. God's justice is quieter, but it is precise. You also move forward by maintaining spiritual discipline. Prayer is no longer optional. It is foundational, not rushed prayer, intentional prayer. Time with God anchors you when pressure increases. Discipline keeps you aligned when emotions fluctuate. Another important practice is guarding your peace aggressively. Peace is not passivity. It is protection. You say no more often now. You limit access. You rest without guilt. Burnout does not prove faithfulness. Sustainability does. You must also stay aware of pride's subtle forms. Pride does not always look like arrogance. Sometimes it looks like self-reliance. The belief that you can handle things without God because you are stronger now. That mindset weakens warriors quietly. Stay dependent. Walking forward without fear also means accepting that not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some people preferred you when you were uncertain. Your stability may unsettle them. Do not shrink to make others comfortable. Growth is not betrayal. You must also learn to wait without anxiety. God's timing remains precise even in alignment. Just because you are ready does not mean everything else is. Patience now protects what haste would damage. When fear whispers, return to evidence. Remember what God already brought you through. You did not survive by chance. You were carried. That truth silences doubt. You also walk forward by staying teachable. Authority does not mean you stop learning. Humility keeps your spirit flexible. Correction keeps you sharp. God resists rigidity. Let me say this clearly. You are allowed to move forward imperfectly. Fear tells you to wait until you feel completely confident. Faith moves while confidence is forming. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is obedience despite it. You will make mistakes. You will misjudge at times. God is not threatened by your humanity. He factors it into the plan. What matters is alignment, not perfection. Walking forward also means refusing comparison. Your pace is intentional. Your assignment is specific. Looking sideways breeds insecurity. Looking upward builds trust. Another key is staying present. Fear lives in imagined futures. Peace lives in obedience today. Focus on what God placed in front of you now. He will handle what comes next. You are not being sent ahead alone. God goes before you. He removes obstacles you never see. He redirects quietly. He protects deliberately. So when hesitation arises, pause, pray, and move anyway. When doubt surfaces, ground yourself and continue. When fear speaks, listen to truth louder. You have already walked through darkness. This season is about walking in alignment. Step forward calmly. Walk steadily. Trust deeply. God did not prepare you in secret to abandon you in the open. And you do not need to rush. You only need to remain obedient. That is how a kingdom warrior walks forward, without fear, without hesitation, and without losing peace. Conclusion. The final confirmation and call to alignment. Chosen one, hear this calmly and receive it fully. This message did not find you by accident. It was not random. It reached you because the season has changed, and your spirit was ready to recognize it. God does not speak prematurely, and he does not repeat himself without purpose. If you are still listening right now, this is your confirmation. You were trained in secret so you would not crumble in public. You were shaped quietly so you would stand firmly when visibility came. Every delay, every closed door, every silent season was intentional. God was never withholding from you. He was preparing you. You are not who you used to be, and you are not required to return to that version of yourself. The confusion has lifted. The striving has eased. The desperation has faded. What remains is clarity, stability, and quiet authority. That is not coincidence. That is readiness. Do not rush this next phase. Walk it with humility. Carry it with discipline. Guard your peace. Stay close to God. Let Him lead, correct, and sustain you just as He always has. You do not need to convince anyone of who you are becoming. Your life will speak. Remember this. Being chosen is not about elevation alone. It is about responsibility. You rise not to be admired, but to serve, to stand, and to remain faithful when others waver. And you are equipped for that. If this message resonated with your spirit, then before you leave, chosen one, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, turn on the bell icon, and share this message with other chosen ones who need confirmation right now. And comment 777 below, not for attention, but as a declaration that you are aligned, prepared, and willing to walk forward in obedience to the calling God has placed on your life. Stay grounded, stay faithful, and rise, calm, steady, and unshaken.